Hello everyone, this is Sam from Language Atlas, and in this video I'd like to show you the complete Spanish A2 Anki Deck. I refer to it as complete because it contains both the Spanish A2 Grammar Anki Deck and the Spanish A2 Vocabulary Anki Deck. So it is the complete package. It has everything you need to know to learn Spanish. In this video, we'll go over three things. First, I'd like to show the course structure of the complete Spanish A2 Anki Deck. Second, I'd like to show the course content, and I'll do so by having a look at three Anki decks within the overall complete Spanish A2 Anki deck. And third, I'd like to show you some brief editing options. But before I get started with my first point, I'd just like to note one thing. You can see that over here I have two versions of the complete Spanish A2 Anki deck. I have the European Spanish A2 Anki deck and the Latin American Spanish A2 Anki deck. Now, the European Spanish A2 just refers to the Spanish that is spoken in Spain, and the Latin American refers to the Spanish that is spoken in Latin America. Now, once you go to languageatlas.com, you have to choose which of the two versions you wish to get. And I would recommend that you take a moment and just think about which version of Spanish is most relevant to you. Is it the European one, so that Spanish that is spoken in Spain, or is it the Latin American one, that is the Spanish that is spoken in Latin America? Whichever one it is, it's fine by me, but just have a moment for yourself and think about which version is most relevant to you. I normally double click on Anki Deck to open it, however, I've already done so. And I'd like to get started with my first point, which is to show the course structure. I'll begin with the complete European Spanish A2 Anki Deck, and then I'll go to the Latin American one. But I'd just like to note that in terms of course structure, they are both the same. However, when it comes to the course content, so the words you see, the sentences, the pronunciations, the IP notations, the audio, the voice, these kind of things, they're different. So structure and setup, they're the same. Content, a bit different. I'll begin with the European one, and you see that there are two decks inside it. We have the European Spanish A2 Grammar and the European Spanish A2 Vocabulary. Of course, as you know, language is a combination of both grammar and vocabulary. I'll begin by showing you the grammar one. You can see that there are seven chapters inside it. Pronouns, verbs, idioms, articles and nouns, adjectives and adverbs, questions and interrogatives, and prepositions and conjunctions. I'll begin with chapter 1, pronouns. And you can see that we have some very important pronouns at A2 level. We have how to say anything and something, how to say someone and anyone, how to say another and other. We learn a bit more about Spanish direct object pronouns, indirect object pronouns, and possessive pronouns, for example. When we go to chapter 2, verbs, we can see that we are dealing with three tenses, and we have a bit on verbs and time. We have the pre-3 tense, the imperfect tense, and the present perfect tense. If I go to the pre-3 tense, we can see that there are four groups inside it. We have, again, the pre-3 tense, when you use the pre-3. We have the regular verbs, so the AR, ER, and IR verbs. We have the common irregular verbs, as you can see over here, to walk, to give, some more about to be, to do, to make. Of course, in the pre-3 tense, we have the common irregular verbs. Pardon me, we did that again. We have the irregular verb groups, so SAR, so CAR, GAR, and ZAR verbs, stem changing IR verbs, UCIR verbs, verbs that change I to Y in the pre-3. We have the second tense, the imperfect tense. Again, when you use imperfect tense, some more regular verbs inside imperfect tense, so to have, to be able to, can. And we have the common irregular verbs, so to do, to make, to go, to be, to have, and to see. Then we go to tense 3, which is the present perfect tense. And again, we have when do you use the present perfect tense, as you see over here, and a bit on how to say already. We have regular verbs, so again, AR, ER, and IR verbs. We have the common irregular verbs, so how to say, to do, to make, to put, to be, and to see. Then we have some more on verbs and time. So how do you form irregular gerunds, the imperfect progressive tense, pre-3 versus present perfect, and the recent past. That was chapter 2, verbs. We have chapter 3, idioms. So ago in Spanish, how to express negative feelings, like in Spanish, the same, these kind of things. Chapter 4, articles and nouns. So nouns are a singular in Spanish, but plural in English, and the other way around. We have adjectives and adverbs. So we have a complete guide to Spanish adjectives, how to say here and there, how to say quantitative adjectives in Spanish, comparative adjectives, these kind of things. We have questions and interrogatives, how to say how much, how many, how, when, where, because versus why. We have chapter 7, prepositions and conjunctions, so before and after, how to express cause, por versus para, a very important one, using common pronouns. And that was a quick overview of the European Spanish A2 grammar. Now I'd like to show you the European Spanish A2 vocabulary one. So over here you can see we have 8 chapters. We have pronouns, conjunctions, verbs, nouns, adjectives, adverbs, prepositions, and determiners. If I click on this icon over here, you can see we have chapter 4 nouns, and you can see that there are 20 subjects inside it. Now what I've done is that I've categorized all the different nouns by theme. So if you're still in academia intellect, you can do so. If you're still more about clothing and fashion, you can do so. If you wish to learn more about jobs, you can do so. If you wish to learn more about transportation, you can do so. Whichever theme you're interested in, you are able to learn it. Now that was a quick overview of the course structure of the complete European Spanish A2 one. Now I'd like to show you the Latin American one. And again, I'd like to say in terms of course structure, they are both the same. I'm going to click on this icon to open it. You can see we have the same 2 decks, the grammar one and the vocabulary one. If you click on this, you can see we have the same thing. Chapter 1 pronouns, Chapter 2 verbs, Chapter 3 idioms, Chapter 4 articles and nouns, Chapter 5 adjectives and adverbs, Chapter 6 questions and interrogatives, prepositions and conjunctions. If you click on the Latin American Spanish A2 vocabulary one, you can see we have the same chapters with the same subjects inside of them. Now, before I move on to my second point, I'd just like to note one thing. I have made separate videos on the grammar and vocabulary Anki Deck. So there's a separate video on A2 grammar and a separate video on A2 vocabulary. You can have a look at those videos if you wish to have an even more in-depth look at the decks. But for now, I think this overview suffices. I'd like to go to my second point, which is to show you the course content. I will handle 1 vocabulary deck and 2 grammar decks. I will begin by showing you the Latin American Spanish A2 vocabulary. I will go to chapter 4 nouns, and I'd like to show you location. Now, before I show you that one, I just like to say again that even if you're interested in the other version of Spanish, it's still in interest to keep watching. That's because the content may be different in terms of sentences, words, audio, IPA, and such. But how cards are set up, the examples that you will see, those are the same. So let's have a look at what we see. We have over here a Spanish sentence with 2 blank areas, 2 underscores. And it's your job to know what goes inside the 2 blank areas. Underneath it, we have the English translation of the Spanish sentence with a certain part bolded and underlined. So we see the and square is bolded and underlined. And this is within the English sentence, the town square was full of life. Underneath that, we see a picture. And the picture is a visual representation of the Spanish sentence. And the picture is here because many studies have shown that if you have a picture there, a visual representation of a Spanish sentence, so a picture, you are better able to remember the words and sentences that you're learning. In my opinion, it works as well. I find it really helpful. And of course, this is very important if you wish to learn a new language. So, let's have a look. How do you say the square, what goes over here, in Spanish?
La plaza del pueblo estaba llena de vida. La plaza, una plaza. Las plazas, unas plazas.
So what do we see over here? We have over here what I like to call a sentence area. We have the correct answer in Spanish with a certain part in pink. Why is this in pink? This is the answer that we're looking for, by the way. That is because in Spanish, nouns are either masculine or feminine. Spanish is a gendered language. And in this deck, you'll find that whenever you do a card in the nouns deck, all masculine nouns are blue and all feminine nouns are pink. And here we see an example of a feminine noun. This is here so you can immediately identify the gender of nouns, but this will also help you memorize the gender of nouns. Underneath the Spanish sentence, we have the IPA notation, and this is here so you can better pronounce the Spanish sentence. We have the English translation of the Spanish sentence, and we have the audio.
La plaza del pueblo estaba llena de vida.
The second area is what I like to call the singular area, and we have the singular noun both in its definite form and in its indefinite form. We have the IPA notation, we have the English translation, and we have the audio.
La plaza, una plaza.
And again, we have the plural area, and where we see the noun in its plural form.
Las plazas, unas plazas.
So I would like to know that even if we were doing the European Spanish one, we would see the same setup where we have a sentence area, we have a singular area, and we have a plural area. But of course, certain words that we use may be different, certain sentences may be different, and for sure the audio and the IPA notation and even the voice will be different. Let's do another one. Visiting a mountainous region offers beautiful natural scenery. How do you say a region?
Visitar una región montañosa ofrece hermosos paisajes naturales. La región, una región. Las regiones, unas regiones.
And again, you see the same setup. We have a sentence area, we have a singular area, and we have a plural area. We have the Spanish sentences and the words over here, the IPA notations over here, and the English translations underneath it. And at the very bottom of every category, every section, we have the audio. And again, in the European Spanish one, the setup would be the same. I use a streaming platform to watch my favorite series, a platform.
Utilizo una plataforma de streaming para ver mis series favoritas. La plataforma, una plataforma. Las plataformas, unas plataformas.
Wonderful. Let's continue. Their dog could follow the track only as far as the Mexican border, the track.
Los perros solo pudieron seguir la pista hasta la frontera con México. La pista, una pista, el rastro, un rastro. Las pistas, unas pistas, los rastros, unos rastros.
And here you can see an example of how to say a word in different ways. They walked across the bridge to get to the other side, the bridge.
Cruzaron el puente para llegar al otro lado. El puente, un puente. Los puentes, unos puentes.
And again, here you see, for example, that the noun is in blue. That is because we are dealing with a masculine noun. So we had the feminine nouns in pink and the masculine nouns in blue. One more. The clothes store had a large section, the store.
La tienda de ropa tenía una gran selección. La tienda, una tienda. Las tiendas, unas tiendas.
So we'll do one more, and then I'd like to go to the second card type. The wheat field stretches as far as the eye can see, the field.
El campo de trigo se extiende hasta donde alcanza la vista. El campo, un campo. Los campos, unos campos.
So this was the first card type. And in the first card type, we had a sentence with some blank areas, and it was our job to know what goes inside the blank area. This is the second card type, and we've seen this sentence before. The town square was full of life. But with the second card type, we have to spell the words correctly. So it's not enough that we know that we actually have to spell the word. So the second card type is a spelling exercises, and this tests where you can actually spell the word correctly.
La plaza del pueblo estaba llena de vida. La plaza, una plaza. Las plazas, unas plazas.
So, as you can tell, I spelled the word correctly, and it shows up in green. This is Anki's way of showing, hey, you spelled the word correctly. But what if you do not know the correct answer? What if you do something like this?
Visitar una región montañosa ofrece hermosos paisajes naturales. La región, una región. Las regiones, unas regiones.
So, something quite interesting happened over here. The parts that were correct are shown in green. The parts that have incorrect are shown in red. This is Anki's way of showing us that we had part of an answer incorrect. And underneath it, we have the correct answer. And again, what was correct is shown in green, but what I should have had, it shows up in gray. So again, the second card type is there so you can test your spelling. And I can continue like this, but we'd have more typing exercises. Now I'd like to go to the complete European Spanish A2 Anki Deck. I will click on this icon to show you what's inside. And I will show you two decks within the grammar one. So we did vocabulary before, but now we'll go to grammar. So the first one I'll show you is within verbs, chapter 2 verbs, regular, go to pre-3 tense, go to regular verbs, and we go to regular ER verbs within the pre-3 tense. I'll click on study now, and this is what we see. Not too new, but one thing is different. We see over here a Spanish sentence with a blank area. We see the English translation of the Spanish sentence. We see a picture. However, this part is new. And this is the part that shows us what verb we have to conjugate and in which tense. So whenever you do verb cards, you have the same setup, but again with the verb and the tense that we have to conjugate it in. So let's see. Do you know the correct answer? Let's have a look.
Nosotros comimos muy bien en este restaurante italiano.
And perhaps you can already tell the difference. Let's have a look at audio.
Nosotros comimos muy bien en este restaurante italiano.
Perhaps you're able to tell that the voice and the pronunciation has changed. That is because we're now doing European Spanish and not Latin American Spanish anymore. So again, the structure they're the same, but the content, the sentences, the words, the audio, and such, that will be different, and you can tell already. So this part we know Spanish sentence, this part we know English translation, and this part we know,
Nosotros comimos muy bien en este restaurante italiano.
which is the audio. But over here, this is something new. What do we see over here? This is an explanation area. All cards in the grammar deck have a grammatical explanation area. So if you need more help, if you need advice, if you know why something is the way it is, you're able to consult the explanation area. So over here we have a conjugation table where we can see the ER ending and we can see how this applies in an example, in comer, for example. And we have comer over here. And then you can see how it happens with the IMOS ending, as you can see right over here. We have the regular ER verbs conjugation method. So how does conjugating actually works? So find the infinitive, cut off the ER and add the do ending. So comer, ER ending, we cut it off and we add the I, and this is the yo form. In our example, we have the comer, we get rid of the ER and add the IMOS ending, as we have done over here. Let's do another one. How old were you when you learned how to read?
¿Cuántos años teníais cuando aprendisteis a leer?
And again, we see we have the answer right over here. So let's do another example. We have over here, they ran so fast that we couldn't get to them.
Ellos corrieron tan rápido que no pudimos alcanzarlos.
This is the answer, the ending that we're looking for. She promised not to do it again.
Ella prometió no volver a hacerlo.
We have the ella, an IO ending. I sold some of my books.
Yo vendí alguno de mis libros antiguos.
We have the I ending, and again, I like to note the explanation area is here as well. Did you learn the lesson this time?
¿Aprendiste la lección esta vez?
Wonderful. Now, this is the second card type, where we'd have to spell the correct answer. However, we've already spelled the answer,
Nosotros comimos muy bien en este restaurante italiano.
so I won't do it for you again. One thing that I would like to note that over here you see vosotros. Now, again, this is the correct conjugation table, but when you do Latin American Spanish, you will not face any vosotros questions. Of course, the table is still correct the way we see it over here, but when you do the Latin American one, you will not be doing any vosotros examples. So that was the second deck. Now I'd like to go to the third deck, which is an idiom one. I go to idioms and I will do this. Use a in Spanish after ... So click on study now. And let's have a look what we see over here. We have a Spanish sentence. We have two blank areas. And we have, I haven't seen your sister in a while. Is she okay? And then a picture.
Hace tiempo que no veo a tu hermana. ¿Está bien?
And we can see over here, veo and an a. And essentially this lesson is about when do you use the a in Spanish after. And for example, you see after buscar, conocer, ver, and visitar. You see you have to use a or a in Spanish after certain words, which you have done. However, this rule only applies when you talk about people or animals. If you're talking about a thing, then you will not use a after the words that we've seen. So again, we have buscar to look for, conocer to know, ver to see, and visitar to visit. And again, whenever you're talking about people, you use a after the verb. However, when you're talking about things, you will not use this letter. Have you visited your uncle yet? A person.
¿Has visitado ya a tu tío?
Simple. Have you visited Paris? So not a person.
¿Vosotros habéis visitado París?
So you do not have the letter A. At home, you watch a film every day. Not a person.
En casa vemos una película todos los días.
And we have another one. Juan invited me to this house. I already know his parents. People.
Juan me invitó a su casa.
We can do another one. I don't know that part of the city.
No conozco esa parte de la ciudad.
And let's do one more. Elena's looking for the remote.
Elena está buscando el mando.
So I think you can have a good overview like this. And then again, we would end up with the typing exercises. So this is a idiom at Spanish A2 level. A lot of people ask, hey, when do you use the a? I see it in some words I don't. After certain verbs, I see it. After some verbs, I do not. This is the explanation for that. So that was my second point. Now I'd like to go to my third and last point, which is to show you some brief editing options. Many people also ask me, how do I regulate the amount of cards that I see per day? Well, this is how you change it. Click on this icon over here next to the Spanish A2 one. Click on options, and you can see here daily limits, new cards per day and maximum reviews per day. So we can change the new cards per day from 65 to 100 if you wish to increase it. And the reviews, you can change it to 100 as well. And a review is just a review, so something that you've done before that you will do again. We can have changed it over here. You can see the maximum has increased. We can decrease the total amount to a lower number, 20 for example. And now we have a lower amount. My advice to you would be to stick to a lower amount in the beginning. So 20 is a nice example, I think. And this is because language learning is all about creating a habit and sticking to it. This is easier to do so if you have begun with a low number. You're able to create a rhythm a lot easier. You won't have such a daunting task. Then afterwards, if you have this rhythm well, it's in your fingers, so to say. You can then increase the amount of cards that you do per day. So that was what I wanted to show you. Thank you very much for watching this video. Again, I'd like to note that if you wish to get the deck, you can get it at languageatlas.com. And of course, you can choose which version you get. You can get the complete European Spanish A2 or the complete Latin American Spanish A2 one. I will share all the necessary links in the comment section and description. I noted earlier that I've made detailed videos regarding the grammar one and the vocabulary one. So you can look at those videos if you wish to have even more explanation. Again, I wish to wish you a lot of luck when it comes to learning the Spanish language. Thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I wish you a very good day as well. Goodbye.